So this is the third part of our series. In this episode, we are going to add a health bar to our squad members and we'll be damaging them. And we are also going to do the same for crates. Let's get started. So this is where we left last time. In this video, we are going to add a health bar to our crates and our squad members as well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to UI and add a slider. So we're going to use this slider as a health bar. I'll name it health bar itself. And here you can see in the slider, there's a value that can be used as a health bar. I'll set one as default value for now. Let's also make this canvas a world space canvas, and now it can be repositioned. Let's also scale the canvas down and move the slider, move it a little bit upwards like this. I'll also rotate it a little bit so it's facing the camera. Now as you can see, there's a slider here which will show the damage. Change few properties of the slider to make it look more like a health bar. Now what I'll do is I'll add a new script in our crate. Let's call it object health. I'll open it in Visual Studios. Inside this object health, first thing I want to do is I want to make a serialized field called float. This float will be for health parameter, and we can, by default, we can set it as 100. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the start and update from here. And we want to display our health and also take damage. Let's make a void damage function. Let's take a float damage value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this damage value from our health, and also we can check here if health is less than equals to 0. In that case, let's for now just destroy this object. Alright, now that is done. Now let's add an on trigger enter, and inside this on trigger enter, let's check for collider.compare tag, and this tag will be player weapon. So if there's a player weapon tag, then we can simply damage it for now with 10 value. So I'll take our barbarian and knight model for now, and inside these models I'll add a sphere, 3D object sphere. Let's move it forward. Let me select the other one as well. Yeah, let's move it somewhere here. As they both have a melee attack, so we can add a hitbox for our weapon here. I'll disable the mesh renderer and enable is trigger. And inside the tags, let's create a new tag. Let's call it player weapon. Let me check that's what the name. Yes, we are using player weapon name here. Yeah, so our spear now has, now let's assign that tag now. Yeah, now our spear has a player weapon tag and a spear collider. Let's also add a rigid body so it can detect collisions. Let's disable use gravity and enable is kinematics. Now that is done, what we want to do is we want to enable this hitbox from an animation, from our attack animation. So I'll open our animation, I'll select the animator here. So we have a melee attack animation, which is something like this, and we want to enable our attack collider somewhere at this frame. So, but as you can see, it's a read-only animation. What we have to do is we have to duplicate it. So I'm gonna press Command D, and it will make a new copy here, and I can use this copy instead in an animator. So now it can be edited as well. Let's select a barbarian again. Let's go to our attack animation, and as you can see, now it's editable. Okay, we will have to add this hitbox inside a barbarian model because that's where our animator is. So it should be a child of our animator object. Now we can try recording it. Okay, I'll select my attack hitbox and enable it. So it will enable this hitbox here, and at somewhere at this frame, I'll disable it again. And where the animation starts, I'm gonna keep it disabled. So it's going to be disabled, then it's going to get enabled. You can see it here as well. Okay, now we can test it. Let's see if our crate is getting damaged. But right now we are not showing it on the slider, so we won't be able to understand if it's getting damaged or not. So it's better, let's give it a reference here. Let's say serialized field. It's going to be a slider. I'll name it HealthBar. The start function, and inside the start function, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say HealthBar dot max value equals to our health, and our health bar dot value will also be equal to our health. So our health bar dot max value will be equals to health, and our health bar dot value will be equals to health. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm in here as well. I'm gonna just copy this and paste it. I'm gonna make an if statement here. If our health minus damage value is less than 0, sorry, if it is greater than 0, only then we want to subtract it. Else we can simply say that our health is equals to 0. So we don't get a negative value in our health. Actually, we can say greater than equals to 0. That way also it won't go to a negative value. I'll give the reference of my health bar slider here, as we made it a serialized field. Now let's try it out. Let's see if it's working fine. Okay, you can see our crate is taking some damage, and once it's destroyed, let's destroy it from another angle. So as you can see, it got destroyed, but we got an error message here. It is from missing reference. We're getting our error in our squad controller because it was still looking for a target point even though it got destroyed. So what I'm gonna do for it is I'm gonna make an if statement and I'll do the controller target points 0 equals to null. So we'll check whether it is a null or not, and if it is a null, then I'm simply going to remove at the 0 index. So the target can be removed if it's already destroyed. In our case, as crate is getting destroyed, and then we can also return this statement so the code below in this statement does not get called. So now we can test it out with different crates how it's looking. Let's see if we'll damage this one. Okay, the first one got destroyed, then our squad moved to the second one. It's working as we wanted. Now to add a health bar to our squad members, what I've done is I've created a workspace canvas inside of our barbarian right now. And you can see in this barbarian, there's a health bar here. And this health bar is just an image. I've changed the image type to filled. So we can show the damage like this. You can see how health bar is rotating from one direction to another. Now I've also added this circle image in front of it. So it looks more like how it looks in Squad Busters, or else it would have looked like a timer. I've made fill origin from top. By default, it's from bottom, and with bottom, it would look like this. But let's keep it as top. I've made this health bar a child of a background image, a health bar background image, and this image is simply just a navy blue color circle image. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate it in y-axis, so it always faces the camera. So first, we're gonna do that. So for that, I'll open my Scott controller script, and in here, let's give reference to our health bar. So let's call it a transform health bar parent. Now I'm gonna rotate this health bar parent to look towards the camera. So I'll actually make a new function for it. I'll call it health look at, and in here do health bar parent dot look at, and this look at will be towards camera. So I can do camera dot mean dot transform dot position. Okay, that's done. Now here you can see our main camera. In our main camera, there's a main camera tag. So this camera dot main will always return this camera to us. And I've also given the reference for our health bar over here in our health bar parent. So I'm giving this health bar background reference here, as you can see. Now let's test it out and see how it looks. Okay, so you can see our health bar will always look towards our camera, even when the players are rotating. Okay, that's fine, but let's also damage our squad member. So our health can decrease. For that, I'm going to add a new script here in our squad members. Here I can do an add component. I'll write player health and I'll click on new script. Need a object health script, and we can reuse most of this stuff. I'm just going to copy it inside our player health. But this time, instead of a slider, we are using an image. We are using a fill amount of an image. So we can remove these two values because there's no value in our image. But instead, what we want to do is we want to use health bar dot fill amount. Now this fill amount is in a range of 0 to 1. So we have to convert this health in a 0 to 1 range. So we know what our maximum health is going to be, the one that we start with, the value that player starts with. So let's make a float. Let's call it a max health. And in our start function, I'll say max health equals to our health. Whatever health we will start with, that will be our maximum health. Then we also know our minimum health can only be 0. Subtract this health value with our minimum value, which will be 0 in our case. And then we want to subtract the maximum, which is this max health that we are saving. So the max health will be subtracted with 0 again. And like this, we can convert it in a range of 0 to 1. Right now, we are just using this player weapon tag. So let's change it to damage player tag instead. Let's try it out and see how it looks. Of course, we want to give reference to our health bar here. Now I'll also create this tag, create a 3D object. Let's call it a cube. This will be a trigger and let's give a tag to it. This tag will be damage player. I'll assign the tag here, and whenever our player will step into it, it should get damaged. I'll also scale it up a little bit. Of course, I'll have to give reference of health bar for other players as well, other squad members as well. Okay, that's done. Actually, we'll also need to add a rigid body first. The collision won't work without the rigid body. We can remove use gravity and let's make it kinematics. Okay, so as soon our players are entering into this box, you can see we are getting 10 damage. And once the health will come to 0 and it will get destroyed. So I've changed few things. Here you can see when as soon as I'm going into the fire, my squad member's health is decreasing, and then a skull shows when a squad member dies. In the next part, we will be adding enemies. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.